to Sharon because she had an exterior door in bad shape. You can see here it can use a little bit of TLC, but she can't decide which color to pick. She's narrowed it down to 3 choices, so we've asked you to help. The choices are pale avocado, waterfall, and Roxbury caramel. You can vote now at Cityline on Twitter. And Sharon, you say you're going to paint whatever color they choose. You don't mind entrusting the viewers to pick the color of your front door.
It's my front door, maybe I would mind. But since it's the back door, I think I just need something fun and I couldn't make up my mind. So I've got 3 ready to go and I'm game.
And all 3 would look fantastic. But in the meantime, Cher, you're going to share the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of staining to breathe new life into a tired old fence so it can have a big impact on your yard. Here's what you're going to need to follow along with this project. You need the Arbor Coat stain testers, Arbor Coat stain, a stain brush, 80 grit sandpaper, and wood cleaner. All right, Sharon, where do we begin?
Well, you know, it's the prep, and the prep is a lot of work, and you really have to start with cleaning. Now, my fence, we built it over 10 years ago. It's a little cedar fence, and I admit I haven't touched it, but it's aged pretty well. But I stained it a nice pretty blue because now that I'm spending so much time down here, I wanted to bring some color that will last year round. I won't lie, it was a lot of work. I had never actually pressure washed 10-year-old wood and got it back to being refreshed. So cleaning was a big part of it. And I actually used the Benjamin Moore Restore product because the wood it had weathered severely. So it just took it right off. I brushed it and rolled it on, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then hosed it down with a pressure washer.
I think I saw you do that on Instagram. It was so satisfying to just see you get all that dirt off. Do you have to sand the fence?
Yes. You know what, Tracy, you do have to. And to be honest, I was thinking, oh, do I really have to? It looks so good. But I started to, you know, kind of look at it and you could see all of the dead fibers of wood because basically when it gets blasted with so much water, it does raise the grain and some of the weathered wood fibers are left on there and you don't want to keep that on there. You want to remove it. Now, it wasn't a big deal. Like I said, I procrastinated, but I got my son to help me. We just used an 80 grit sandpaper. I didn't use, you know, a palm sander. I suppose you could, but it's really just a matter of scrubbing that wood really quickly and right away you see the dead wood kind of come off. So after you do that, you're kind of ready to go. But then another important step is to sample the colors. Now, as you can see, I went with a blue tone. I actually tried out 3 different blues because it looks so different on wood than it does in, you know, in anything else. I did the 3, I decided on Spellbound, and then I was ready to go. So I always recommend with stain that you use a brush. And I know you're going, oh, it's a lot of work. And it is. If you want to, you can get somebody ahead of you with a roller and then you come behind and brush it. That's a technique. But because I was doing it on my own, I just brushed the stain right in. And you want to just get every area. I use a stain brush. If it's a smaller area, you can use any polyester brush. But yes, it's a lot of work. But you want to also make sure that the wood is completely dry for a good 48 hours after washing it before you get into the staining part.
How do we pick which stain to use? Because there's different varieties, right? Yes.
3 main stain opacities. And really a lot of it comes down to aesthetics, but then it also comes down to function, like what is the shape of your wood to begin with. So I've got a couple of samples here. These are all on a new cedar board. So you can see the new cedar here. The first when you've got newer wood and it's a really good shape, translucent stain will just add a little bit of color. It brings UV protection and and just a little bit of color. So you can get, there's 4 colors that are just sort of natural, cedar tone, that sort of thing. When you want a little bit more color, which is what I use, it's semi-transparent. So here I've got semi-transparent in Hamilton blue, so you can see that. And then when you've got a situation where maybe you've got imperfect wood, you've replaced some of the old rotten boards with new boards, and now it's all a mixture, you don't want to highlight that. So using a solid stain is a really good idea. You still can feel the texture of the wood, but it is rather opaque. And then when you get to just your natural wood and you don't sand it, I wanted to kind of just show you, Trace, what happens when I've got this older piece of pressure treated wood here. And pressure treated and cedar are going to look different too. I've sanded above and I didn't sand below. And you can I'm going to get my rag. You can kind of see how it'll absorb differently into the area that's been sanded compared to the area that isn't sanded. So that's an important step. And then of course, just make sure you sample, because this is the color that I used on new cedar, and when you look at it compared to my old cedar, very different. So sample, sample, sample.
And the stain is going to look different depending on the kind of wood you use, right?
Exactly, Trace. You can see on the cedar and on the pressure treated, this is the same color. This is Spellbound, which is the color that I used in semi-transparent. And you can see on the pressure treated, which is in my left hand, it looks much darker. So again, it's really important to test it out on your wood, because every wood is so different and it's going to look completely different in the end. So just want to be sure you know what you're getting.
Okay, really useful tips there, Sharon. I love it. I think a lot of people will be doing those projects since we're at home and in the yard.